Hello everybody. And I cannot really see who's on the call. Jaspreet can, and she'll manage that. Good evening to every single person. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this Facebook Live today on this group called Orators Squad. My name is Omar Sharif. I am based in Dubai, and public speaking has been a very, very passionate subject for me, something which has been very, very close to my heart. And when Jaspreet ordered me to really go live on this group called as Orators Squad, I didn't blink an eye. Orators Squad, I love the name of this group. It's fantastic. Orator is essentially a more refined version of public speaking, which is more eloquent, more smoother, and much more better to hear. So it's an advanced version, and squad is squad, and a group of people towards a certain task, towards a certain goal. Absolutely fantastic. A very apt name for the group. So thank you, Jaspreet, for really initiating this, for initiating this group, for initiating this live. I am absolutely excited and happy to be here. So today we're going to talk about the basics of public speaking. Really, we wouldn't go into a lot of bolts and nuts and the techniques of public speaking. We'll start with the very, very simple basics which are time tested, basics which I have used as well, and basics I have learned too. So we'll go ahead and dive straight in, and I do see comments coming in. That's fine. Keep it rolling. Keep the comments going. Absolutely. I'll be interacting with the comments with the people as they come in, and feel free to ask questions. Feel free to talk to me. I'll be more than happy to respond to those questions. Okay. And if all is well, let's just dive straight into the topic. Public speaking. When I mention the names like Barack Obama, Martin Luther King, Winston Churchill, Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, Jack Welch, Oprah Winfrey, and all these great people, what is the one thing common amongst all of them? All of them have been absolutely outstanding public speakers. All of them have been absolutely great when it comes to communicating, when it comes to adding value, when it comes to holding the crowd. They are beautiful. They're very, very strong, right? And so it is. We have quite a few Indian leaders too in the same boat. Now, all these names I've taken, what do you think is the commonality between all of them? If I were to say list 5 common things between all these speakers, what would they be? All of them, they have a speech which is very, very clear. They always speak very, very confidently. All the speeches are very concise. All of them are very credible people, and every time all of these people speak, they are very, very compelling. Right? The 5 C's: clear, concise, confident, credible, compelling. And that's what makes an awesome public speaker. I always say this: public speaking is not just about speaking. Public speaking is about performance. It's not about what you say, it's about how you say it. It's about being there on the stage and being able to create an impact which the audience will remember for a lifetime maybe, right? Now let's get one thing clear. And many people, when they actually hear the word public speaking, they tend to think it's all about getting on stage and speaking to lots and lots of people. That's not true. Public speaking could be speaking to one person or 1,000 people. It doesn't matter. It's the same. And public speaking is not just required by professionals. Public speaking is required by every single person who wants to get work done, who wants to create something, who wants to leave an impact, who wants to impact people. So right from being a job holder, being a job speaker, being in business, being a homemaker, being a housewife, being a student, every single person who has to sell an idea, every single person who has to market something that he has, every single person who wants to get work done, it has to be an effective speaker, has to be an effective public speaker. So don't think that public speaking is not for me. It's for everybody. Every single person should be an effective public speaker. Now, do you know that 91% of business professionals admit to daydreaming during meetings, and a shocking 39% actually confess to falling asleep during meetings? The reason why people tend to fall asleep in meetings and tend to daydream during meetings is what? It's because the speaker, the presenter, was not able to hold the attention of the people. He wasn't able to engage the audience to the degree they should have been engaged. And that's true with a lot of speakers who go out on stage, right? I've been in countless seminars and programs and sessions where I want to listen to the speaker, but I'm not able to stay engaged because the speaker does not have my attention. And it's not the audience's fault, it's the speaker's fault. And that's why we all should be mastering the way we should be engaging with the audience. Now, every time I talk to people, I'm a student of life, by the way. I learn from every single person, whether it's public speaking from a student or public speaking from an expert. I always am open to learning. Awesome 5 C's. Thank you, Indrajit. So now, what are the benefits of public speaking? I want to share 5 tips with you today on how to make yourself an effective speaker, how to really go about speaking to people, 1, 5, 10 or 1,000 people. How can you actually do that? But before that, I just want to talk about what are the benefits of public speaking. Whether you are a student, a job person, a person in business, or a homemaker, why and how do you really stand to benefit if you can actually start practicing public speaking very well? The first thing is public speaking increases confidence in you. If you remember any incident in your life, or if you've never been on stage, think of any person who has been on stage for the first time. They would be very anxious, very nervous, very jittery when they're about to speak. But once they've given their speech, they are on top of the world. They feel a sense of accomplishment. They feel very, very confident. And public speaking, when you start repeating it over and over again, when you start talking to people over and over again, when you start practicing the way you should actually do that, you will get confident every single time. So if you want to become confident in life, public speaking is an essential ingredient, it's an essential skill that you should be mastering. Okay? Next, makes you marketable. Hi Alka, good evening, good evening. I see people joining in, really happy to see that. Thank you. Now, public speaking makes you marketable. Whether I am a middle-level manager or a junior manager in a company who has to make an impression to my boss and to the management, whether I'm in a business who has to sell my products and market my company to a corporate or to a customer, whether I'm a housewife or a homemaker who has to ensure I can impact my kids or my husband or the ladies I have friends with in kiddie parties, you have to be a person who can speak well. A person is heard when you can actually make sense and make an impact when you're speaking. So you are more marketable. Public speaking makes you more marketable. Okay. Now, if you're in a job, especially, or if you're trying to find a job, if you're seeking a job, especially in today's scenario, COVID-19 has left many people looking for a job. And if you are one of them who is trying to look for a job, know this very well. Public speaking ability, or the ability to speak confidently, the ability to speak effectively, is actually going to increase your chances of getting hired. Companies, a 2017 study, if I remember correctly, from ICIMS, published that 40% of employers rank communication skills as the #1 skill they value in a candidate. 40% ranked communication skills as #1 skill they value in a candidate. And so if you're a job seeker, you definitely know what you want to do in trying to hone your public speaking skills. Okay. Next is if you have public speaking as a passion, if you love to go to these events where you want to listen to people, talk to people, be in public speaking events, chances are you would actually meet people who are more like you. Chances are you would meet people with similar interests, and that's a great way to grow your network. That's a great way to increase your net worth as well. Network is equal to net worth, right? Public speaking also makes you aware of how others perceive you. When you are talking to people, when you are on the stage or off the stage, when people are observing you and watching you, you become aware of how people are reacting to you. What kind of feedback do they give you? The way you are speaking, you become slow as you speak, you improve your body posture, you improve your gestures, you improve your body language, you tend to improve as you start getting to do more of public speaking. So a few points essentially why public speaking is important, and I'm trying to look at the chat box. All good here. Okay, absolutely agree with it. Thank you, Pravjyoz Bodhraj. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, now public speaking can be really life-changing. By the way, yours truly was changed dramatically because of public speaking. I grew up as a very shy boy. I grew up with a horrible communication skill. I grew up with very poor command on the English language, especially. Public speaking is not about English language. You know, you can speak in any language, but because I always felt that English language is a very important language, I didn't have a good command over it. I grew up with a very poor self-esteem about who I am, how can I talk to people. I was always very shy to talk to people. And things went on. Okay, I graduated, I post-graduated, and there was a time in life during my MBA, and this is the first time probably I'm revealing this. I'll tell you the story of my MBA. I was in my MBA and I was asked by the director of the institute to introduce a chief guest coming for the event. His name was Mr. R.L. Bhatia. I'll never forget him. And he was supposed to come to the event and I was supposed to introduce him. Okay, and that was a very important job, and I didn't have to give a speech. I was supposed to read from an introductory paper, a full-length A4 size paper on, it was essentially a CV compressed into a nice story for the gentleman. I agreed. I said, sure, I will. And there was a practice and rehearsals and everything. It was a big event, and the D-Day arrived. And so on the stage, there was this table where the guests were sitting, the director, the chairperson, some VIPs, and the chief guest as well. And then next to them on the left-hand side was the podium, the dais, where I was supposed to go and introduce, and speakers of course would be speaking from the same position. When my turn came to go out there on the stage and introduce the speaker by reading the script, I walked out confidently until I reached the podium. When I reached the dais, the podium, and I looked up and saw 1,000 pairs of eyes staring at me, the entire hall was full. I looked down and I started reading from the script. As I started reading, I did not even finish the first two sentences, the first two lines, not even sentences, and I started feeling an increase in my heartbeat. I started getting breathless. My palms started sweating. And I have no reason, I do not know why, okay? It was just the fear of public speaking, just the fear of those 1,000 pairs of eyes staring at me. And as my eyes became a little foggy, I could not see what was written on the piece of paper. And I stopped. I couldn't read beyond 2 lines. I stopped. I looked up, red-faced. I looked at the chief guest, not knowing what to do. Everybody staring at me. And in that moment, I just walked over to the chief guest table, stood next to him, picked up his bottle of water, drank the water in front of the entire audience, screwed the cap back on, kept the bottle down, came back to the podium. I was much better until then, and carried on with this speech and completed the introduction. As soon as I was done, I rushed back into the backstage room, and I felt that the earth should open up and I should completely get swallowed. I was horribly red-faced. I was embarrassed to the core. And I thought that was the moment I had told myself this is the last day I would ever go on stage again. And you know what happened next? The chief guest whom I'd invited to come, he came over to the podium, to the dais, and he says, this guy who just introduced me, I'm sure he has to be a marketing person. He's specializing in marketing. The way he comes on the stage, he starts reading about me, then he stops short, he comes to my table with everybody watching him, drinks my water, goes back to the podium, flashes his dimples, his smile, and then reads the complete script, introduces me, and hogs the whole limelight. And he converted the entire picture into so positive. People, all the audience actually applauded me, and they stood up, and he invited me. He said, can I have this gentleman please come back on stage? And I was invited back on stage. He patted me on the back and said, great job done. I'm sure you'll do very well in life. That motivation booster for me was a life changer. If not for that gentleman, Mr. R.L. Bhatia, thank you very much, sir, wherever you are. If not for that gentleman, I would not have been speaking to you today. Right? Two learnings from this. One, the best of us can fail. Public speaking, anxiety, and fear happens to the best of us. That's not a full stop to your public speaking career or to your public speaking skills. That's just the beginning. If you notice, every great public speaker has had a horrible failure in life, and that failure has turned out to be a very, very positive one for him, from where he has moved on to become a better public speaker. And the name that comes to my mind right now is Arthur Sherry, who is also a great public speaker. I know him well, and he has also narrated a story where he flunked on stage dramatically when he was in a corporate job, but then he twisted the whole thing and turned back and became a very, very good orator today, right? So public speaking can be life-changing, literally, like how it changed my life today. Today, I love public speaking. It's a passion for me. So remember this, public speaking is not difficult. Public speaking is not easy. It's all about how you take it forward. Public speaking is not just speaking, it's about performing. Okay? Great. Now let me just go ahead and any questions so far? Nothing with it? Absolutely agree with it. Great. Thank you. Very true. Very true. Okay. Something similar happened to me during a speech competition. Oh, great. Jaspreet. Love to hear that. Always go beyond the full stop. Sahiba, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining in. Okay. So I'm going to share with you 5 essential tips, or I call them the 5 rules of public speaking, of being a good and effective public speaker. First one is, know this very well, nervousness is very, very normal. Nervousness is very usual, very normal, happens to the best of us. Whether you are a Barack Obama or Omar Sharif or Jaspreet or Sahiba, nervousness comes to everybody when you're going on stage. The trick is to flip the nervousness, to flip the adrenaline which gets released in your body, the fight or flight hormone, and use it for your benefit. Your emotions, the more emotional you are, I always say this, the more emotional you are, the better public speaker you can become. Public speakers who made an impact or created an impact were never emotionless. They always performed because they were full of emotions, because they utilized their emotions for the better. Okay, so it's very natural to get nervous. And like Mark Twain says, or Mark Twain or someone has said this, he said there are 2 kinds of public speakers. One, those who get nervous, and then there are those who are liars. Which means what? Means every single person, regardless of who you are, will always feel nervous before going on stage. So know this fact, if you're anxious, if you're nervous, it's absolutely normal. The audience wants you to be successful. The audience, whoever the audience is, audience never wants you to fail. When they see a person on stage, they want to support the person. Don't think they're an enemy. They are a friend. Okay? So let nervousness be your friend and ensure that you can actually control it. Next is make the audience the center of attention. Nervousness is Dr. Zaman, thank you. Nice to see you here. Nervousness is very, very normal. So true. Absolutely. Next tip is make the audience the center of attention. Know this very well. When you go out there on stage, you are not the center of attention. The world doesn't revolve around you. As much as we would like to think it that way, it does not revolve around you. A speaker is never a speaker without an audience. A session is never a session without listeners actually engaging and listening to the person. Okay? You and your content cannot stand on its own. The center of peace, the center of the entire attention is the audience. Ensure that you understand that and build it into the DNA of your speech and your presentation. The audience is what matters, right? There's one more advantage of doing this. One more advantage of really thinking that way, that audience is what really matters. I don't really matter much. If you're very anxious, if you are a bundle of nervous energy, if you're a bundle of a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of emotions, it's very difficult, right? When you start focusing on yourself only, how am I standing, how am I looking, how am I saying, and you tend to bog yourself down with a fear of self, whatever the term could be, right? You are so concerned about yourself. The minute you shift the focus from yourself to the audience, believe me, it's a moment where you feel very relaxed. Start thinking about the audience. Give complete importance to the audience. There's a relationship in place there. With the audience, there are three kinds of relationships. Well, not with the audience. When you're a speaker and you have an audience in front of you, three relationships are really playing out. The first relationship is between the audience and you. The second relationship is between you and your content. And third relationship is between the audience and your content. You have to keep a close watch on all these relationships. The relationship between the audience and you is audience is there to engage, audience is there to listen to you, audience is there to respond to you, right? The relationship between audience and the content, or rather you and the content, is you will be interpreting your content and delivering to the audience in the manner where they actually understand it. And the relationship between the audience and the content is the audience has to relate to the content. If the audience does not relate to what you are saying, it's like pouring water over a duck's back. They will not really enjoy the session, they'll not be engaged, they'll not think it was time well spent. They have to be engaged not just with you, but with your content as well. Okay? So key important, this tip was make the audience the center of attention. Third tip is to understand this very well is when you are out there to talk to people, your message is divided in three parts. Whatever you're about to say is essentially a division of three parts. One is the words that you use to say or to deliver your message. Second is the tone, the voice modulation, the voice that you use, the up and down that you use for conveying your message. And the third is the body language. And interestingly, I don't know if many of you are aware, but University of California, UCLA, had conducted a study where they came up and said between the words, tone and the body language, surprise, surprise, the words contribute to only 7% of the communication. The tone contributes to 38% of the communication, and your body language contributes to a whopping 55%. Which means, that does not mean that if you just stand there and say nothing, 55% is assumed. It's not so. It's a package of all the three. But what's important to note here is 7% is only words. Your content and the words you use to deliver the content is just 7%. 55% contributes because of the body language, your gestures, the hand gestures, your body movement, and the way the audience actually looks at you as a speaker, as a performer. Okay? Now, why is that? Why is 55% given for body language? One of the reasons why, there are many scientific reasons as well. One of the reasons are because there are 22 times as many nerves from the eye to the brain as there are from the ear to the brain. The nerves from the eye to the brain are 22 times as compared to the nerves which go from your ear to your brain. So what the people see is what they will understand and remember more. Of course, hearing is important, but visual becomes very, very important. That's why your body language is very important. People might forget what you said, but people will never forget how you said it. Okay? So that was the third one. All good with the chat so far? Good, thank you. Next one is understanding your purpose. It happens so many times, right? We as speakers go onto the stage, and I can give you examples from my end. You know, I have had sessions in the past. I was not the speaker. I was either an organizer or one of the supporting team. And a question to the speaker about what's the objective of the talk today generally leads to an answer like, I'm going to talk about. That's so wrong. What you're going to talk about has nothing to do with what your purpose is, what your objective is from the talk. What you're going to talk about is your content, is a topic, but what do you want the audience to achieve? What do you want the audience to connect with? What do you want the audience to take away from this talk is your purpose, is your objective. So begin with the end in mind. understand your purpose, and ensure that you're able to deliver to expectations. It's not just the content. Okay? Okay, knowing that we are about to get done on time, the next one is wonderful tips. They're gonna impact so many lives. Thank you, Jaspreet. The fifth one is let your personality shine through. Public speaking is all about authenticity. Public speaking is all about being yourself. You can very well try to learn from others. You can very well try to take inspiration from others, people who are better than you. Watch them, learn from them, but do not try to imitate them. You, as a person, have unique abilities which no one else has. Let that shine through. Let that authenticity be felt by the audience. And I can tell you this very clearly from experience. The audience is not a fool. Audience understands and can see through your personality. If you are not authentic, if you're not real, they can see through you. They'll never be able to connect. Let them connect with the real you, and that is magical. That has a lot of power. Okay? Last one is use as many stories you can. Use as many personal stories you can. Use as many examples you can, personal examples, to make your audience connected with you. Connecting with the audience is essential to ensure that not just the message is effective, but the message is also remembered and you are remembered as a speaker. I'm sure all of you know about the hormones, the happiness hormones, DOSE, DOSE, like I call them. Dopamine is for D, O is for oxytocin, S is for serotonin, and E is for endorphin, DOSE. These are the happiness hormones, right? The second one, oxytocin, is a hormone which is also called as connection hormone. When you relate your personal stories to the audience, the oxytocin gets secreted, the hormone gets secreted, and they start connecting with you as a person. Okay? And they start feeling good. The reason why do you go to watch movies? When you go to watch a Shah Rukh Khan movie or any specific actor that you like, that you want to go and watch a movie, why do you watch them and why do you get so engrossed in the movie? Why do some people cry in movies? It's a movie, right? The people cry in movies. Why? Because oxytocin gets secreted in their bodies. The connection hormone gets secreted in their bodies. They feel connected to the protagonist, to the hero. Similarly, the audience gets connected to the speaker because of oxytocin if you can share your personal stories with them. Do that. You'll make an impact, and you'll make an impact dramatically. Okay? Public speaking is all about creating an impact. If you are in this world for communicating effectively, if your passion is to better lives, if your passion is to improve lives, then public speaking definitely has to be your number one skill in your kitty bag. And if you're not a person who's really interested in impacting lives and bettering the world, but you definitely want a good life for yourself and your family and your friends, then also public speaking should be number one in terms of the skill to be developed. I always say this to students especially. If you can learn one thing very well, regardless of whether the school or college teaches you or not, make sure you can learn the art of public speaking. Ford, I don't remember which Ford it was. One of the Ford that said this very nicely. He said, if I were to go back to school, I would focus on learning two things only. One, the ability to write. Second, the ability to speak in public. Unfortunately, today's curriculums don't necessarily focus on that. So if someone can do that, they are way ahead in their lives. One last tip is, just like if you want to become a writer, someone had said very well, the way to become a good writer is to write and to write and to write and to write and to write. Similarly, the way to become a good speaker is of course to understand and listen and implement whatever I just said, but it's all about speak and speak and speak and speak. The more chances you get of speaking in public, the more better you get at it. Never miss out a chance. Go out there, speak in public, impact lives, impact people, share your stories. You have so much of things to share about your life. People might want to learn. So feel free, go ahead, share them. And I'll end with this quote. Make sure that you finish speaking before the audience has stopped listening. Okay? With that, I will wrap up. Thank you very much, Jaspreet. That's perfectly 30 minutes. Thank you very much. I love it being on time. When I finish on time, it's just it's always good to start on time and finish on time. So that's it for me. Any questions? I don't see any questions over here. I'm assuming all is good. Thank you very much, audience. Dr. Zaman, Jaspreet, and Sahiba, and Pravjot, and everybody else, Inderjeet, Alka. Thank you very much for joining in. Those are the comments I can see. If there are many others, thank you for all of you as well. You guys have been a very patient audience. Thank you. Keep speaking, keep rocking. I'm wrapping up the session now. Thanks. Bye.